Welcome to another episode of The Latest with Maya. Today, I am so excited to have a conversation with actor Ben Feldman. You've seen Ben in Superstore, Mad Men, Silicon Valley, and so much more. Most recently, you can see Ben in the show Population 11. Thank you so much for being on my show. I am so excited to be talking with you.
I'm excited to talk to you. Thanks for having me. Where are we? Is this your room over here?
Yes, yes.
Cool. Who's that behind you?
Ariana Grande.
Ah, it's Ariana Grande. Okay, cool. Naturally next to Teen Wolf. That makes sense.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, I have a whole wall of pop culture behind me.
I
So,
love it. I love it. Is it just there, or have you populated the rest of the house with pop culture?
it's mainly my room.
Okay.
Yeah, but I have things on like every wall in my room. So,
I have nothing on my wall except just recently I had this panic moment right before we went on because my wife has these framed pictures of these like pinup ladies, like these nude like art from like a long time ago. And right at the last second, I was like, "Oh God, are there a bunch of like naked women on the wall behind me?" That was the weirdest thing. It's art. It's art. My wife put them
yeah,
there. It would look strange in an interview, I think.
yeah.
So instead, you have the beautiful door behind me.
Yes, well, thank you. It is a beautiful door.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can definitely see that, yeah, that it's art and it might look a little
It would
weird.
look a little ridiculous. It's the only thing on the wall up here, too. So it would look like
Yeah,
a weird obsession. But
yeah.
anyway,
I
I like
think
your wall
that's the
better.
only reason it would look strange.
Yes.
Yeah.
Next to a Teen Wolf poster, maybe it would be different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, my first question for you is who do you most admire and how has that affected the way you live your life?
Wow. Coming out of the gate with a really serious, deep question. Um, Kudos. I like that. Who do
Thank
I
you.
most admire? I mean, it changes a lot. When I was young, it was probably more superficial things, famous actors. When I was in acting school in college, it was like Al Pacino or directors that I love, like P.T. Anderson or someone like that. Um, but in my old age now, it's such a corny answer, but I think my kids. I have two little kids, and uh, you're kind of blown away when you watch these two things grow up from nothing into like real humans in your own house. And I watch them make right decisions and feel empathy and be kind to each other. They just did this charity fundraiser bake sale for Children's Hospital this last weekend, and watching them, actually care about other sick children, and not just sort of be this kind of self-centered, the typical like 7-year-old who's just like me, 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 me. So I think, as corny as it is right now, I think who I admire the most are my children, and they're always my sort of reminder when everything else is either dark or I get caught up in the day-to-day things that don't really matter. They're sort of my zoom out moment. That's sort of how they affect my life. They remind me that there's so many bigger things than whatever I'm upset about today.
Oh,
You
yeah.
asked for you asked a deep question. I'm going to give you a deep answer, Maya.
Yeah, I love that. I love deep answers.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Um, so, what small things bring you joy on a daily basis?
Food, food and sleep. Candy, the right sandwich, um, knowing food really, knowing at my mother-in-law always makes fun of me that like if she's in town or if we're on vacation together or something, I'll ask her at 7 or 8 in the morning what's for dinner. Um, that's I think it's like the most animal thing. Like there could be all these other things going on, but if you don't have like a good snack or meal to look forward to, then what are we doing this for?
Mm. Yeah, I get that. That's understandable.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a constant it's constantly front of mind for me. We're we're planning a trip this Christmas, and I just had a conversation with my mother-in-law who's going on the trip, and it's this big, cool, elaborate trip. But all my only questions were what we eating and when and where and what are the kids gonna eat?
I love that. Um, so what has been the biggest obstacle you've overcome?
That I've overcome. Um, I feel like there's been a lot of them. I mean, career wise, I think any actor that's working has overcome about 8 billion obstacles, um, because statistically we shouldn't be working. Um, so I think, I think that on a career, in a career sense, the fact that I've sort of overcome the odds to be a working, happy actor and producer and director and that kind of stuff. In real life, IRL, um, I think I think I have kind of grown up to be a more thoughtful person who's prioritized the right things. And if you knew me when I was in my 20s or teens, that would be a massive obstacle because I don't think I was. I don't think I had my head on my shoulders when I was younger, and I could have just sort of ended up being an idiot in many different ways. So I think myself maybe is the answer to that question. What's the biggest obstacle? Myself. Um, I'm a very happy person, and I think I'm surprised by that.
Mhm. Oh, wow. Yeah. So what lessons from your childhood have most impacted your worldview?
Maya, this is what time is it? It's too early for this. I need a drink or something for this. Um, what lessons from my childhood? I learned I had I my parents got divorced when I was 8. And there was a lot of turbulence in that world, and I had parents, especially a mom that kind of went up and down emotionally. And that taught me to try and find, I think it's why I'm a performer. I was always like, hey, but look at me. I'm dancing. Don't worry about, your ex-husband or whatever you're sad about. I think I learned at a very young age to try and find the good in any situation. Um, Even if something's bleak, I imagine that's probably one of your greatest skills. I can tell it's one of your greatest skills. And
Thank you.
I think that as you would probably know, it's a mindset. Are you going to let external things or sometimes internal physical things make you upset, and are you going to let them win? Are you going to let them control you, or are you going to control your own happiness and make your world happy? Because it's also, I think I learned early on when I was a kid that in a lot of ways it's your choice. Am I going to be sad or am I going to be happy? um, and that would probably be my biggest, my takeaway from when I was a kid. And I would imagine, I mean, I would ask you the same thing. Is that something that you've come across and learned yourself?
Yeah, it's my mom taught my sister and I when we were really young that there's always something good to be found in a situation if
Yeah.
you just look. And there's always something to laugh at. Um,
That's, you know what? And I'm changing my answer to your answer because that's another thing. I had very funny parents, and there should always be humor. Even in there's was some tragedy in my family just a couple weeks ago, and someone died, and I was asked to be the MC of the funeral because they wanted it to reflect how happy he was and how funny he was. And I think it was one of the most cathartic things for everybody was to find humor in a really tragic moment. So your answer is better than mine. I think humor would be the real answer.
Well, I love that, and I'm really sorry to hear about that.
We all have tragedy. It's part of life, and I mean, you get it. So what do you do? All you can do is laugh and
Yeah,
choose to be happy.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, my family and I have such a dark sense of humor with everything we've gone through
I'm
that,
sure.
yeah.
And
So,
you know who doesn't make it through those times? The people with no sense of humor. Sorry, no offense to everybody who has no sense of humor, but I don't know anybody that would
yeah,
describe themselves as that. But that's
yeah,
that's my opinion. It's what I even
yeah,
think if I were to even turn it back to like TV shows or movies, I always say I can't watch something. Every drama that's good has humor in it.
yeah.
Um, like everybody's obsessed with Severance right now, and like that's could you could argue that's a drama, but it's also like laugh out loud funny all the time. I think, and I think that's what life is supposed to be. You're supposed to be laughing and crying, and I think that shows and movies that have no, if there's not a funny someone who's sort of funny in the writers' room or writing it, I'm not interested. It's just not. I'd rather be the funny person on a serious show or the serious person on a funny show.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. So if you had a warning label, what would yours be?
What would the warning label be about me?
Yes.
Uh, thinks he's funnier than he is. Doesn't intend whatever he just said was not supposed to be mean. Um, talks too much. Uh, sleepy. Doesn't
Oh,
want to go. Warning. Doesn't want to go to your party. Too tired.
yeah, I like those.
I mean, there's many, many more. I mean, you might as well bring my wife in here to ask her that question, or my kids for that matter. But those are the first ones I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, I love those. Yeah, I always joke with my family that I'd much rather just stay instead of going out. I'd much rather stay home just in my bubble,
Yeah,
watching like a movie or
Teen Wolf and Ariana Grande. Yeah,
yes, exactly. Yeah,
yeah. I just I mean, when you get, I mean, it's just this age. I just don't. I also like have two lunatics that live in my house that wake me up at 6 in the morning screaming. So I just don't have it in me. I'd rather stay home and watch, but as my Michelle and I say, our programs. What would be your warning?
um, uh, 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 probably I think I'd have two that would be one would be prone to anxiety, don't
Sure.
overload.
Don't overload. That's great.
Yeah. And then um actually I think I'd probably have three because then obsessively talks about pop culture
Sure.
and then cannot make a decision to save her life.
You know what? I relate to all of those as well. So but fortunately, you and I have turned at least one of those warning labels into like a career, which
Yeah.
is obsessed with pop culture. To some,
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so like I mean, like you already know, I am pop culture obsessed and go on stages of shows that I cannot stop watching. Is there a show that you are currently obsessed with?
you know what? I have a list. I have a list because there's so many that Michelle and I, the kids go to sleep and it's time to watch our programs, and I need a list. So Severance, but Severance I think has become mine now. She's now whenever I ask, do you want to watch Severance? She says no. So I'm gonna have to download them and watch them on a plane. The rest of it.
Hmm.
Um, we're loving Paradise right now with Sterling, who I love. Have you interviewed him?
I have,
I'm
yeah.
sure you have. You've interviewed so many people I know, but Sterling feels like number one for this vibe with the deep questions. That's him. Um, what do we like? Obviously White Lotus, Adolescence. I'm obsessed with Adolescence right
Yeah.
now because just as someone who works in this industry, there's the story and the incredible acting and the incredible writing, But then I just sit there and cannot stop obsessing over the takes and how they're doing these in one shot and how it'll go from a handheld to a drone and then back to a handheld and just all these different the way they rehearse it and how that show is shot is fascinating to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I loved Adolescence. It was so good.
We have one more and we're like saving it because I'm so sad that we have one more left. I'm
Yeah.
bye.
Yeah, my mom and I binged watched that together. We watched it in I think like 2 days.
Also he's such a great the dad, I forget his name, but he was did you watch uh Boardwalk Empire?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay. Well, you got to watch Boardwalk Empire at some point. It's a fun
Oh,
gangster show, but he plays like a mobster, like a famous mobster. And he's like this New Yorkie, like completely different. He's an incredible. They're all incredible. The little boy is like gonna explode, I think.
yeah. I on my social media every week I do a spotlight of like an artist, either a musician or an actor every week. And he was one of my spotlights just a couple weeks ago.
Oh, good. You got to
So
get him on the show. That kid is just like
yeah.
just amazing. And that's second or third episode, the one that's just them two talking the entire.
Yeah.
It's a play. You're watching a play, a one
Yeah.
act. Really incredible. Anyway,
Yeah.
I could go on. I have lots of things I'm watching.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, the that it was like constantly one take and not any scene cuts. I love that. And it reminded me of The Pit, which I am obsessed
The
with
Pit's
that.
a great. That's another show that's on our list. We like The Pit, and we watched The Pit last night. In fact,
Oh yeah, I did too.
let me ask you this: The Pit for us, in this weird way, is like a comfort show. Like it's in. Now you're someone who I imagine knows your way around a hospital.
Yes.
Uh, and you're someone, as you just said, riddled with anxiety. Do those two things not crash into each other when you're watching that show?
Um, they definitely can. Definitely with the like storyline that they have been doing the past two episodes,
Mm-hmm.
that has not been great for
Oh, we haven't gotten to that. We're
anxiety.
we're like three behind, so I'm about
Oh,
to learn. But I'm
okay.
going to think of you when I watch
Yeah.
that and be anxious for you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. But it's like it's such a it's I don't watch a ton of medical shows, but there have been a few that I've been obsessed with and I've watched all the way through. And The Pit is definitely the most realistic,
I'm sure.
which is in like it does sound strange, but is a comfort
That's so,
in a way with how realistic it is.
that's so, is it because of Noah Wiley? Is it because there's something almost godlike about him where you just feel like he's gonna save like is this is real, but it's in Noah Wiley's hands, and so everything's gonna be okay. That's
Yeah.
sort of how I feel in a weird way. That's why I like
Yeah.
TR.
Yeah,
Funny.
yeah. Yeah, I also, I like how it's like there's no one person that is the hero in
Yeah.
the show, that it's like there's tragedy and they have like, they save people and then there's also people that they're not able to save. I like
Yeah.
there's that they're not like heroes all, or
Right.
yeah, like they are heroes, but like not
It's
able.
not like one of those shows where
Yeah,
every episode it's like you're white knuckling it, and right at the end of the fourth act they save the person and everything ends
yeah,
happily. Yeah, because it doesn't
yeah,
feel real,
yeah,
and then that allows you to trust the show more when you know that they're kind of not lying to you about
yeah,
what it's like. That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
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 I can't imagine working on that show or Adolescence because those actors just work so much. Like the pit people have to show up all day long, even if like they're just passing through because they connect each story to, it's all one room. It just
yeah,
looks like a lot of work.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think it seems so stressful.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I've interviewed yeah, a few people from the show, and my goal is to get everyone
To get
from
everyone from that show. That's
yeah.
funny. Who are you missing? Who's your have you because there's so many people on that show.
Yeah. Yeah, I've interviewed Patrick Ball.
Is he which one is he like the handsome one?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like that guy's gonna keep working.
Yeah. Yeah. It was very funny when the first episode premiered, and my mom and I watched the show together, and when we watched the first episode, the moment he came on, the first words that were came out of my mouth were, "He's so cute."
Yeah. He
So,
is. He's like, who does he look? He looks like a combination of a bunch of actors. Like he looks like a combination of all these other hot guys, like Chris Pine, but like Patrick Dempsey. Like there's like a
yeah.
weird the guy's he's gonna do okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so when you have a day off, what would your perfect day look like?
My perfect day would be traveling somewhere. I if I'm stuck at home, which is plenty, I don't know. I'm always dreaming about being somewhere else, somewhere I don't live. If like I was shooting I on Mayfair, which is right now too, and I was we were shooting in Ireland, in Dublin, and I had a couple days off, and uh I was like, what's a trip that I can do that I won't be sad that my family isn't with me and that my family won't be jealous of? And I was like, what if I took a horrifying little puddle jumper plane over to Scotland in a storm and drank whiskey all day on an island? And to me, it was like the greatest when I think about like days off. That was like the great. I went to I've loved Scotch for a long time, and there's this area in Scotland called Islay, where they make all these like smoky scotches that taste like campfires, and it's just an island with like crashing waves and a couple little houses, but it's all it is whiskey making. And I went there and just like in Scotland in a storm in a cable knit sweater, eating fish and chips and and tasting whiskeys in like distilleries. That to me is like a dream day. So traveling, I guess, would be. But if I was stuck at home, exercise, maybe go for a bike ride, hang out with my kids, but like not a lot, like just enough before they go insane and start to make me nuts. Like maybe wake up with my kids and then have them later, but maybe they go to camp in the middle of my perfect day. Um, and then a good lunch, a good sandwich.
I love that. That sounds like a really good day.
By the way, all of my good day, all of it involved consuming things. There's a theme. It's all just either eating or drinking, I guess.
Yeah. Um, so what genre of movie would your life story be told as?
Maya. Um, what genre? I want to say like horror because that would be so cool, but it's the opposite. What's the opposite of horror? Rom-com, I guess.
Yeah.
Probably closer to my life would be more of a. There's not enough drama um or there's not enough craziness for it to be action or horror or anything like that. Um, who would write it or direct it? I'm trying to think. I don't know. Like it wouldn't be like Seth Rogen-y. That's a good question, Maya. I don't. I would probably rom com is the closest genre I could think of. Maybe
Well,
animated,
yeah.
cartoon, Disney.
Oh yeah. I love that. Yeah, I want my life story to be, I constantly want it to be both a rom-com and a musical.
Okay, so that's. I mean, there are those there. That would be wait. So would your life story start out on Broadway and then there'd be a movie adaptation, or would it be the movie that then goes to Broadway ultimately, like Mean Girls?
Oh. I never thought of that.
Are you a the are you do you like do you what do you like theater? Are you a theater
Yeah,
person?
yeah, I am. I love it. Um, I don't know. That's a good question.
I think here's what I think you want, Maya. I think you want to start on Broadway because those ones are going to start. That's where you're going to get the best music, and you're going to try out all that stuff. And then by the time it makes it to the movie, you've already figured out exactly what your how you're going to tell your life story. So let's workshop your life story, maybe off Broadway somewhere, maybe in Chicago even, and then inevitably we'll get it to Broadway, and then we'll have some big producers pick it up, and then it'll be the movie.
Okay. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that.
I'm glad we could figure this out together.
Yeah, me too.
Do you have
And
any
you
favorite
have to,
Do you have any favorite musicals? What's a favorite musical?
oh, well, first I was gonna say you'll have to be in the movie musical.
I can sing enough, but not that you can't give me a main part then. I'll just be a
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Um, sorry, what was your question?
your favorite some favorite musicals.
Oh, yeah. I love Spring Awakening.
It's a great one.
Yeah, I am.
The like Next to Normal, you like the like modern kind of cool. Did you see Next to Normal too?
I haven't. I
Okay.
haven't seen Spring Awakening. I'm
Okay.
just obsessed with the soundtrack.
Oh yeah. Didn't
So
you watch it? Don't you have access somewhere? I feel like you could watch it like the recording of it somewhere. I don't know. It's great
I,
music.
yeah, I've been trying to find that for the past. It's been since quarantine in 2020
Yeah.
that I've been trying to find it. So
Yeah, man. That was a good one. Dear Evan Hansen. That's sort of like funny and sad at the same time. That would be a
yeah,
good genre.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I wish I could sing, but I can't. Not enough for people to pay the kind of money that they pay to see Broadway shows. That's for sure. But I have friends who do it. I have friends that are very good at it.
Cool. Yeah, my family and I, my mom and my sister and I, got to see our first Broadway show in October of 2023.
What was it?
We saw Gutenberg.
Oh, with Josh. Yeah, oh, yeah. Did you
Yeah,
see it with them in it?
yeah,
That's
we
so
did.
cool.
Yeah.
I didn't get to see that one, but everybody I know absolutely loved it. Who was your person up on stage that night?
Steve Gutenberg.
Actually, oh, Steve Gutenberg is who they brought
Yeah,
on stage.
yeah,
That's great. That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
I love that. I
Yeah,
wish I.
yeah, it was so much fun. I was slightly jealous of seeing like all on social media all the
All the
producers
other ones.
of yeah because like I am obsessed with both Ben Platt and Jonathan Groff. I love
Mhm.
them, and so when they were there, I was like, oh, I wish we were there that night too.
Yeah, yeah. You could. I because I follow Josh Gad on Instagram, and so I was constantly aware of the people that they had up on that stage. And it's I if I were seeing that show, I would block him on social media because I would not want to know who was there like the night before.
Yeah.
Full show.
Yeah, it was so fun.
Well, that's awesome. Are you going to go back?
I don't know. I want to eventually.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to go back. I know Jonathan Groff he's gonna be in the new musical coming out soon.
Yeah. What
Um,
is it that he's doing? I
is it
forget.
In Time
Oh
or
yeah,
something?
yeah. I
Yeah.
saw something about that recently. Yeah, there's a lot of great, the last time we were there, we saw Darren Chris is a really. Have you interviewed Darren before?
Not yet, but I've been
Okay.
trying.
Darren's one of our best friends, and he's in a show right now called Maybe Happy Ending. That's
Oh,
such a cool. It's like this. It's basically it's a rom com musical about robots,
yeah. Oh,
but it's like
wow.
so much more than that. It's really really cool.
Yeah.
So worth looking
Oh,
that up.
that's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so what three words best describe you?
Um, loud, uh, embarrassed, um, and empathetic.
I like those.
I had to throw in one like nice thing about me because I could have just, yeah, loud, loud. Usually I'm loud and embarrassed about something. So those are good adjectives, I think. Yeah. And empathetic, but maybe it's empathy for myself. Maybe narcissistic. I don't know. Somewhere in that world. What about you? What are your three?
I don't know.
Do you see how hard these questions are? I love that I get to throw them back at you.
Yeah.
Hard to come up with on the spot, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I know there have been a couple other people who have thrown that question back at me, and now I don't remember anything that I said to them.
You're
So,
gonna have to write it down, put it up in your wall next to Ariana, and
okay.
then the next time someone asks you, you can just duck out of the way. You'll have your
Yeah.
adjectives.
Yeah. I'll have to, yeah, remember that.
Yeah, there you go.
So thank you.
Always here to help.
Yeah. Um, so I just have a few more questions for you, if that
Okay.
works. Um, so do you have any irrational fears?
Um, you know, no. Well, I don't know. Nothing really that. Most of my fears are pretty rational. Um, uh, One fear I've noticed, I actually noticed this last night watching The Pit, if I could bring everything. Whenever someone is sick on TV or in a movie, I immediately start thinking that I've got whatever it is. Like we were watching an episode where there was a guy having a heart attack, and immediately I was like, am I and it's just like that's an irrational. I think I take on my wife makes fun of me all the time because if like my kid or someone in the house, someone near me says like, I have a cold, I immediately go, I'm getting a cold. I can feel like I get it from other people, like by osmosis. So I think that's probably an irrational thing about me is that I'm like that guy in the Green Mile who he takes everybody's pain, but I take everybody's like sick. Um, that's irrational. But no, for the most part, I'm a pretty level-headed person. I'm not scared of much.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, for now. I mean, I'll have something to be scared of soon enough, I'm sure.
Yeah, so what movie or show do you find yourself quoting more often than you would like?
Uh, Gosh, I'm not one of those people that's really good at remembering lines. Everyone I know is, and they can quote something from a movie they saw once 10 years ago, and I just can't. But I spent a lot of my life quoting. Did you ever see the movie Wet Hot American Summer?
I haven't.
That or Waiting for Guffman. Have you seen Waiting for Guffman?
I haven't.
Okay, that should be. You should watch Waiting or any one of they did Best in Show. It was like a group of these like fake documentaries. Oh my god, the best. You'll love it. Um, those are just some legendary comedies that I think I used to quote all the time. But no, other than that, I'm not a quoter. I quote songs more than probably movies and shows.
I love that. What songs do you quote?
They're not specific ones. They're just sort of like if it applies to the situation, if I spilled something in the kitchen, I would say I'm the problem, it's me. Um, I think the lyrics come to me, Maya. I'm just a vessel,
Oh yeah.
and so yeah, I think if I'm quoting things, it's usually that kind of poppy culture stuff.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, my brain is just filled with show and movie
Can
quotes.
you're one of those people that can watch something and immediately remember the lines.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I wish I could do that.
Yeah, I don't have a great memory when it comes to other things, but when it comes to anything pop culture, I
Right,
think,
right.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, not me. I don't have a good memory. The only part of my memory that works is memorizing lines, and I think that's all of that is gone. That's my what little memory I have is
Mm.
just sectioned off in a quarter of my brain for that.
Yeah, well, that's impressive. I took an acting class when I was in high school for a semester, and I couldn't memorize any lines, and I would kind of have a small panic attack when I had to stand in front of everybody.
Yeah, I get that.
So,
But that's because you took it
yeah.
for a semester. A memory is like any other part of your body. It's a muscle. And if you do it all the time, it gets bigger and stronger. But that's still my fear. I mean, that's every actor's fear is that my nightmares are always it's opening night. It's usually theater just because that's live. It's opening night. I'm walking out on the stage and I realize just as I'm in the wings that I'm not off book. I've not memorized any of my lines. It's the most common actor nightmare ever. So even people who are good at it, that's still a panic attack for sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Um, so what do you have a go-to comfort show or movie that you turn on when you just want to escape the world?
You know what? Uh, I've just reinvested in Top Chef my time. I've reinvested my time. Um, it'll be a reality. I'm not a big reality person, but if I want to drop off the face of the planet, it's going to be a show like that. For a while, for my wife and I, it was Love Island UK, which is like the greatest, dumbest, and greatest show ever. Um, but yeah, it's usually I think scripted stuff because there's emotion, there's so much emotion involved. And for me, it's also my business. And so there's the emotion of the story. There's also the emotion of, you know, why wasn't I in this? Or, oh, I know that actor, or whatever it is. There's so much going on that I can't drop off. I can't just disappear into a show, but I can into a reality, like an unscripted thing. I love documentaries. I love I was watching a murder documentary this morning. Um, yeah, I think if I really would like if I'm on an airplane and it's like really bumpy and it's like nerve-wracking, the thing I would want to be watching is like a murder show, mystery, like true crime.
Okay.
Maybe that's weird, but it's definitely it's that's how I disappear, I guess. Other people's tragedy. I don't know what that says about me. Oh well.
I was gonna say I might be a little anxious talking with you now.
I don't ever fantasize about being in said documentary. I think I just like, oh, by the way, it's not even murder. It's just in fact, honestly, like my dream world is a world that just has endless versions of that Fire Fest documentary. Like, do you remember when that came out? There was a documentary. If you haven't watched it, it's so great. Just about this festival that they were going to throw on a tropical island with all these like bands and celebrities and influencers, and it just was a disaster. Like they screwed it up in epic ways. And to me, that was just watching influencers in a tropical setting fail. Something about that is escaping for me. It's a really good sort of soft, happy, comforting feeling.
That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I should probably talk to a therapist after this.
Well, let me know how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have so many shows and movies I just rotate between, and none of them are documentaries or murder
Okay.
documentaries. Um,
But are any of them dark? Is there like a dark movie or show that you'll watch anytime it's on?
oh, I mean, I love Teen Wolf. Um, I
Okay.
I
But
love
that's dark in like a campy way, right?
Yeah, I mean, the later seasons got very dark, and so I
Okay.
realized I couldn't watch them right before bed because it gave
Right.
me nightmares.
Right.
So, yeah, and then I really was obsessed with Grimm. I watched that all
Okay.
uh, like a few months ago.
Was it grim?
Yes.
It was quite grim. Cool.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, so I do like some dark shows, which um is
Were you a Twilight person?
what?
Were you a Twilight or are you a Twilight person?
No.
No. Okay. Okay.
Um, yeah, but there was a show several years ago called Dead of Summer that I was obsessed with. And they also totally freaked me out. So, um,
So there, maybe there's a little crazy in you too, Maya. Maybe we're both
yeah,
just dark
yeah,
weirdos, you know?
yeah, maybe. But I don't get comfort from murder documentaries. So,
It's not, it's not the story is not what's comforting. I think it's just talking head. Honestly, it's if I'm like napping, like it's just talking heads, people going, and then we drove the car, we saw the remains of the body. Something about that. I don't know why it just shuts my brain off. I don't know. I should talk to someone about this.
yeah, maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah, I watched when Zac Efron came out with the movie of he was in the movie about Ted Bundy.
Oh yeah,
Watched that with my mom and my sister, and they were both telling me I shouldn't watch it. But I was like, it's because that would freak me out. But I was like, it's Zac Efron. I want to watch it. And as soon as it was over, I was like, I
that's it.
shouldn't have watched
You're
that.
done with serial killers. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that movie still freaks me out.
Are
So
there any so you don't watch horror films? Like there's no you're,
no, I like thrillers, but
mm.
I don't like horror movies.
I get that. I get that because you want something for your mind to do. Like it's there's a thriller is exciting. A horror movie. I've been in 3 horror movies and they often just feel like you're running away from something and something's chasing you. And that's sort of the whole story in every kind of horror movie.
Yeah.
And it's a lot as an actor, it's just a lot of what was that? Like it's just that over and over and over again. Or
Mm,
screaming.
yeah.
I get how those can they're more boring to me than they are scary, I think.
Mm, mm. You to me, they're just scary. So,
Yeah. Well, I see the like shaky camera and the fake
yeah.
blood, and I don't know. It's not interesting to me.
Yeah. I was gonna say, as like being an actor, I can see that, like, kind of knowing everything that
But
goes.
I know other actors that work all the time, that work more than me, that love horror movies, that are not bored by them. So I think it's just there's something wrong with me that I'm bored by horror movies, but soothed by true life horror.
Yeah, maybe a little
I'm
bit.
learning a lot about myself, Maya. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
Maybe my answer is horror film is the genre. That's my life's genre. It's horror
Yeah.
or true crime, just true
Oh
crime.
yeah. Yeah. I there's only a few like true crime shows that I have actually watched and
Mm-hmm.
liked. Um, but I like the when like certain shows like spoof true crime.
Mm-hmm.
Like The Rookie did that a couple times.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, and those episodes were some of my favorites because they were fun.
Right,
Um,
right. When they're kind of making fun of it. Yeah, I get that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So what is the greatest lesson you have learned from a character you've played?
From a character I've played. Um, Greatest lesson I've learned from a character I've played. Gosh, that's such a good question. Um, I feel like I feel like every character, there's little pieces of me from every one of them. I don't think there's like one great lesson. I've certainly learned one thing I've learned is to be able to laugh at myself in doing years of comedy, especially being on sitcoms. Every sitcom is like Superstore, especially was 6 years of my life where there's just a room of writers making fun of me, and that became people would ask me if I was what similarities I had with that character, and I it's all of them. They just wrote me times like 3. Um, so the I think that's where I learn the most is when I'm on a show for a while. I learn my strengths, what makes the most sense coming out of my mouth. Like I think as an actor, that's one of the cool things about being in TV that you can't do in movies is you can do something, you can play a character and then everybody can watch it. And then the people in charge of what that character says next go back into a room and write new things for that character. And over time, you start to kind of learn what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and how to be able to see yourself objectively. So I don't know that I don't think there's one major thing, but I do think I learned the most from that character. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I learned different things from different shows all the time. I learned one of the first things I ever learned uh in a I was an understudy in a Broadway show, um was to always have your lines memorized, because I had to do a rehearsal once for the part that I was understudying, and my lines I didn't have, I wasn't fully memorized. And another, when that actor who I was understudying left the show, they brought somebody else in to take over for the part instead of me, because I had my shot and I blew it. um so I learned very early to always be the first person to set, to be the one fully memorized, to work really hard, because you know, we're all just very lucky to be showing up to any set.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
A long answer to your question.
No, I love that. Yeah. Um, so I have one final question for you. So I love inspiring and motivational quotes, and this week the one that spoke to me is by Irving Berlin, and it's
Ah,
life is 10% what you make it and 90% how you take it. Um, is there a quotation that has inspired you lately?
that's a good one. I like that one. I wonder if I fully, yeah, I suppose so. How you take it. You could add a little more onto the make it side. I would say more like 20 to 30. But listen, who am I to question Irving Berlin? Like that guy. Um, what are some quotes? Uh, you know, my dad, here's one that here's advice that I'm always struggling to take. My dad, when I was young and I decided I wanted to be an actor, his favorite quote was this Sammy Davis Jr. quote, which was just, it's simple. It's just always leave the audience wanting more. Um, which I think means, I think for me, at least as an artist, not as a human, but also as a human too, I think, is you don't have to do so much. Do, like, let them, if you do too much, they've had enough of you. And I think that that applies to, it applies to an interview. It applies to the your a style of acting. It applies to writing a script. You know, you don't want to overwrite something. You want to leave it kind of simple. I think that was a quote that weirdly stuck with me forever. Is always leave the audience wanting more.
I love that one.
Yeah, it's a good one. I'm assuming it's Sammy Davis Jr. I just have to take my dad's word for it. I never really looked it up.
I love that.
Mhm.
Yeah. Um, well, that was my final question.
By the way, what a great final. Like, you honestly just end the show right after. You should even cut me off. It should just be always leave the audience wanting, and then that you just go to black.
Oh, yeah.
Great way to end the show.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah. Um, yeah, well, I just can't thank you enough for joining me. I've had the best time talking with you. You have been on my vision board for forever.
Oh,
So,
I appreciate it. It's really cool to get to talk to you. And I have a lot of friends that love you. I know so many of the people that have been in this Zoom room before. So it's an honor to be in that club.
thank you. Yeah, and so thank you again so much for taking the time, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Bye, Ariana.
Yeah, she says bye.
She has not moved once, and neither has that Dalmatian. It's wild.
Yeah, yeah,
She keeps it still. She doesn't want to upstage the interview. I get it.
yeah, yeah. I appreciate her not
She's really
wanting
kind.
to.
She's got to
Yeah,
be hungry.
yeah. Um, and that's a wrap on today's edition of the latest with Maya.
Woo!